Hello, back again to do another unboxing and review. Today I have a portable, slim power bank I'm going to look at. It comes from a company called Shenzhen Huaqianjibo Technology. The brand, as you can see written there, is Essager, and it is the model number E as in Echo, S as in Sierra, D as in Delta 0015. Alright, so as to the question why I'm reviewing a power bank, this one does have some features in it, but probably nothing too out there that you would think it's worth a review. Well, to answer that question, I'm always interested in acquiring new power banks. I've been carrying them for actually quite some time. In fact, here's one of the first ones I actually started carrying. And just to show you, this is, if some of you may not even recognize this connection, this is mini USB, not micro, mini. So, and this dates from the later 2000s. So, yes. And I've also reviewed many other power banks, more modern ones, of course. I did this review, this one shockproof and waterproof. You can look up the review for that, My Charge one, if you're interested. And yeah, then I even have things that are like this beast here. Okay, this has a solar panel integrated, but you can see this thing is quite the heft. But I'm always looking for one that I can slip in my pocket and carry, not like this thing here, but yet it still has a good amount of charge and features. So that's where this one comes into play, hopefully. Alright, so I'll go over the specs. I'm going to go ahead and scroll this piece of paper by the camera here. Okay, so therefore on the output and input that you're seeing now, those are the same numbers that were presented in the literature from the seller that I bought this from. And also those are the same specs written on the device itself. Of course, I have yet to test it, but anyway. So now moving on, size and weight, I actually measured those, so those are, I can testify to that. Battery capacity, of course that's something we're going to have to test. Okay. Alright, so let's take a look around the packaging. As you've already seen, it's really minimalist. So on the front, the only thing we have written is the brand. Come to the front edge, nothing. Side, nothing. Back or top, nothing. And this side, nothing. So the only other space to look at is the back, where we actually do have something written. The brand, the company, and even the company's address. I don't know, is that their main office or headquarters? I don't know. You can go to Shenzhen and go see for yourself. Okay, and then the execution standard, and then see where it's made. We do have an actual UPC code, and yeah, so that's it. Now, let's get to the impressions of the packaging, because yeah, there's not much to look at. And so people might rip on it and say that's the most boring box I've ever seen. If you're an eco-conscious person, you might like the fact that they are minimalizing the packaging, right? Less waste. But I think the real deal here is that there's no need to invest in making the package look fancy, because more likely than not, you already knew about this device before you even picked up the box, and you've already made your decision. Therefore, the box is just merely a way of containing the item so it doesn't get dirty or damaged. And of course, a UPC code so it's easy to ring up in the warehouse or whatever. The box does seem to be relatively sturdy. You can see it has bowed up here at the top, so it's not the sturdiest box ever, but it looks like it's done its job overall. So let's go ahead and get to the unboxing. Alright, so there's nothing securing this closed. It's just one of the fold flaps, so I'll just open that up. Inside we see the main item. It does have a bubble bag around it. Underneath there we have the one and only accessory, which is the cable to charge the power bank. And you can see it's USB on one side and micro USB on the other. Okay, and then here's the item. Simply remove the bubble bag, and there we are. So you can see there you have the brand. You can see this has an interesting texture on the front. Kind of reflects the light in a pretty cool fashion there. As far as the texture, it's overall smooth. I can feel an ever so light. You can't really feel all those grooves, the lines that you see there that are making the design. Just barely, but overall I'd say it was smooth. And then we have these three holes here, which I believe are LEDs that are going to let us know how charged this is. This side here we have one button. Bottom, nothing there. This side, nothing. On the top, we have the ports. So it should come up on camera, but in case it's not, on either side you have your USB output. And then in the middle you have two ports. The top one is for micro USB in, and the bottom one, of course, would be for Type C in. And then on the back, that's just so you can see if you touch it. Yeah, so, okay. I was just seeing if it leaves moisture marks, but not so much. Okay, great. So anyways, on here, if I flip it over, okay, so there they are. Those are the same specs that I showed you earlier on that piece of paper. But the fact that they're willing to write all these specs on the back kind of is like a spec list. Hopefully that's a sign that these specs are legit and we actually are going to get the stated capacity. We'll see if that holds true, but anyway. Alright, so I was trying to show you this earlier. I've been holding it for a while, and I'm going to remove my hand. And you see, yeah, so it does pick up some moisture off your hand, but it evaporates in pretty short order. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't seem to leave fingerprints. So maybe that design's actually helping. It's looking pretty clean. I don't have any smudges on it, at least not yet. So, alright, so I want to check to see if they shipped it with any charge. I pushed the button here on the upper corner, and all these LEDs illuminated. So we have 4 LEDs illuminated, so therefore, as you can probably guess, it means it's fully charged. But to be more accurate, 4 LEDs mean it's anywhere between 100% and 75% charged. If it only had 3 LEDs, it would be anywhere between 70 and 50% charged. If it only had 2 LEDs, it would be anywhere from 50 to 25%. And if it only had 1 LED, you know you have 25% or less. Alright, so that's how that works. Alright, so I'm just going to show you here to give you a quick size comparison. So you have the USB plug there on the side and the unit there. Okay, and then from the side. Alright, so initial impressions prior to use. I do like the weight. It's not super lightweight, but it's also not too heavy, assuming it gives us the power it promises. And again, that weight is 7.9 ounces or 222 grams. And to give you an idea what that feels like, I'll use LG phones as a reference, okay? So this weighs more than the LG V20, but it weighs a little bit less than the LG V60 ThinkQ 5G, all right? So in short, it's basically like carrying another smartphone as far as weight's concerned. All right. Alright, so I finally got this thing charged, and when I mean say finally, I mean it took quite the amount of time. So it took just, I think, an hour or two short of a whole day. Yeah, that's right. So you are going to have this thing plugged to the wall for at least 20 hours. Now, I'm not really sure at this point what to make out of it, but I'll fill you in on all the background factors. First of all, the port I'm charging this out of is the same docking station that I charge my smartphones out of. So it's basically a power strip, then it has a few spots where you can plug in USB devices, and I checked those ports. They are putting out the 5 volts, so those are not like fast charge or anything. They're just the normal USB port. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about these lights here. When they charge, you'll know when it's fully charged, of course, because all 4 lights will stay lit, steady, and as it's charged, more and more lights start to shine. Okay. Now, let's talk about the center of balance of this thing. The reason I do this is it kind of gives me an idea of how the cell or the case is laid out in these. Some of these that aren't so honest, they make it big to make you feel like, oh, I'm getting a lot, but then the actual cell will only be a portion of the shell, and then the other side will be primarily just the couple ports, right, and empty space. So let's go ahead and see where the center of balance is on this. Alright, there it is. So if we look at it, you can see that it is a tad bit more to the right side as it's sitting here. than it is to that side. However, keep in mind that that side does have those USB ports, and of course those are essentially open slots, so they're going to take up, well, they're not going to weigh as much. So this actually does make sense, and this lets me know, with the exception of the actual USB ports, that this battery cell is pretty much evenly distributed throughout the casing that you're seeing here. Alright, so in order to test the charging capability of the charger, I'm going to go ahead and use it to recharge this phone. I left this phone on to the point that now I'm going to use this V20 here, as I do in a lot of my videos, and people ask me, why do you keep using the V20? I mean, you know, it's 2020, 2021 now, and that thing is like from 2016. Alright, so there's a couple reasons, especially when I'm dealing with charging tests. I like to use the V20 because I can actually get to the battery on this phone without pry tools and all that hack it open type thing. No, this actually has a button and it opens up and you replace the battery, like in the TV remote, for example. And people usually say, well, replaceable batteries are dumb because you don't keep a phone long enough that you're going to need to change the battery. Okay, this is a V20 from 2016. It was my daily carry. That means every day this went out with me. And I didn't put a new daily carry in my pocket until, what, the V60. Okay, so I got that in 2020. So we have 4+ years basically on this phone. And if you look at the back, this basically could be fresh out of the box. And that little spots you see, that's just dust, and I can blow that off, so that's not even a scratch. And then again, I know people can say, but the screen's cracked, right? Well, no, it is not. That's just condensation from moisture from my hand. Okay? And this here is actually the little factory, you pull this off when it comes to you. It's a little lining sticker along the screen. Yes, I left it on there. So anyway, and that's a tempered glass screen protector on there. But so don't let people tell you that you can't keep a phone in good condition. That's just a bunch of garbage because they're most likely slobs. Okay, so now with that out of the way, let's go ahead and the reason I'm using this is I'm going to show you the battery. So the battery I put in here is it's new, so I bought multiple batteries because you could do that back then anyway, and so the battery in here is new, so it's not like a 4+ year old battery. So I'm going to show you this super secret magic technique that today's smartphones just can't figure out how to do, because this is mind-blowing here. So there's a little button, you see? You just push that little button right there, and then this, okay, wait for it, I know this is like unbelievable. Look at that, there's the battery. And by the way, this is metal, so don't tell me, oh, it's all those cheap plastic covers. Nope, that's metal. So, yeah. Alright, so now that you've seen that it actually has the battery in there, we'll go ahead and start charging it. Alright, so we're going to start the test here. I have the charger. I have my inline diagnostic tool, so this, as you can see, is a pass-through. So I'll go ahead and connect this to the charger and just make sure that it is in fact 5 volts coming out of there before we put any load on it, i.e. the phone. And then I also have the factory shipped, or the OEM cable that came with the V20. So there we go. Alright, so let's start with testing this with that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and connect it here. And you see we already got a reading. There it is, 5.08 volts, so basically 5 volts. Alright, and of course there's no current because there's no load on it except for this guy here. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and actually charge the phone. So, have it connected. You can see we're starting at 17%. Alright, so the phone finished charging, and I went ahead and took some readings and made a little diary here. I've also decided to, in order to figure out the performance and capability of our new PowerBank, I decided to use math. So I took a sampling, of course charging the battery of the LG V20, and then from there I'm going to go use math to figure out overall performance of the power bank. I decided to do this instead of just seeing how many devices I could charge with the power bank, because every battery is different and then you're introducing a whole bunch of variables. So here we go, charging one battery and kind of extrapolating the rest. Okay, so here we go. What we're going to, first of all, this up here is just the specs for the battery that powers the LG V20. Okay, now next you can see I have some percentages and times at 9:42 p.m. and then when it finished charging, so 100%, it was that time there. Okay, now the power bank still has 3 LEDs. Now this is important because remember, this power bank does not have a digital display that can just tell you 68% remaining. We have this 4 LED scheme, and that'll become important later on. So moving on, here I have the 83% was refilled, so simply put, going from 17 to 100%, it was 83% of this battery here. Okay, so if you do, I just left a little math here if you can kind of see what I was doing. So 83% of the overall capacity of the battery that powers the LG V20 is that. So in essence, that's how much we put back into the battery of the V20. Alright, now coming here, I just wrote down the time so you can kind of get an idea of the rate that was charging the phone. So there we go, the total charge time was 106 minutes, and you can see I have the rate broken down by per minute and per hour. So there's your per minute and there's your per hour. Okay, now let's get back to those 3 LEDs I was talking about. So since we still have 3 lights, at worst the power bank still has 51% left. And then I did the math. I didn't include it on here for keeping it clean. But if that's the case, then that means the battery overall capacity would have been this from the beginning on the power bank. So using math, understanding under these conditions, that means the power bank would have had total of that capacity there. Now, on the other side, if we go with best case scenario, since we still have 3 lights, the bank would have 75% left, and therefore the overall capacity of the power bank would have been this. Now, so if we look at these two numbers here, well, let me go down here. So what I did is just to figure out if this is best and this is worst case scenario. If you go in the middle, essentially doing an average, then the total capacity of the power bank would be that right there. So now if we look at these numbers, let's go to the 2 extremes here. On the best case scenario, the capacity of the power bank would be more than the attention-grabbing title of 10,000 milliamps per hour power bank. So I don't believe it's this number here, just because, well, yeah. Now, going to the low number, that would be, I'll slide this in real quick here. Remember, the rated capacity, it's in red there, is 6,500. So they thought that was a realistic capacity. And you can see that number is what, about 65, so that is what 1,000 milliamp per hour lower than their rated capacity, which actually is pretty good considering we're assuming the worst case scenario here. Alright, so I would say their rated capacity probably is pretty accurate. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and charge my phone. I have my LG V60 over there. And we're going to first start off by using the inline diagnostic tool, and then I will remove this and then just go from here straight to the phone, and we'll look at what's happening on the phone real time. So this first part will be more about what the power bank it's doing, and then the second part will be more about how the phone is dealing with the charge coming into its battery. Okay, so without further ado, let's start here. Plug this in. Okay, so there we go. Then connect this to the phone. Okay, yeah, so if you see the phone lit up, so it is being charged. And it says, yep, charging. Okay, and then let me look at the charge symbol just to see what kind of charge we have. Yep, okay, so regular charge, but I expected that. Okay, as far as the rate goes, of course. So now let's look at the inline display. Right side up would help. Alright, so there what we have. Of course, the 5 volts.
And you can see we're going at 1.3 amps. Yep, looks nice and steady. So alright. So now let's go take a look at what's happening on the phone. Of course, as I said, I'm going to unplug the inline diagnostic tool so we have a direct connection. Okay, well, I'll do that. Alright, so I have the phone directly charging from the power bank. And these are the readings we're getting. Of course, this ability to see the charging in real time is courtesy of that app there, Ampere. Alright.
Alright, so here let's try out the dual charging. I have two devices charging at the same time. We'll go over here to the left first. Small tablet. Okay. And going back, and then let's go look at the V20 smartphone. Alright, so they're both charging at the same time. Alright, so before we move out into the next section, I want to do one last thing regarding how much power this bank can hold. So you saw that I just dual charged the tablet and the smartphone. Well, that was after I'd already depleted what was in here, and then I recharged this device. But on that initial charge, I wanted to let you know that after I filmed the parts that I did, I went ahead and continued to recharge some of the LG V20. I used some of the phone and then hence put some charge back into it using this. And also I decided to go ahead and use this to charge up some of my LG V60's battery. That's another smartphone. Okay, so when all said and done, I charged, as far as recharging different devices, I put back into those devices 7,200 milliamps per hour, and after that this still had one LED illuminated. So we now know that this has at least over 7,200 milliamps per hour worth of juice in here, or charge, right? So that's actually better than the stated, or whatever they call it, the stated capacity. Let me check, I have it right here. Yeah, because the rated capacity, that was where I was looking for, rated capacity was at 6,500. And I just took out 7,200, so that's bigger. Okay, now let's get on to the disclaimers. So I've only really used this device as far as like how many charge-discharge cycles. I did that one that I just spoke of, right? And then I recharged it, and I've used it about halfway again. So not even two complete charge-discharge cycles on this. And so anything I say as far as would I recommend this or not, keep in mind I have only used it as much as I've just said at the point of me making my recommendation. Okay, and the other, as you can tell, I have not abused this. As you know from my videos, I don't abuse my equipment, but I just like to point that out. So like if you do drop this onto the subway track or whatever, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it feels pretty sturdy, but again, I haven't done a torture test or anything on it. Okay, so now let's get to price comparison. Now, I normally kind of just vaguely go over this in my videos, but for this particular one, I thought, let me actually get some examples. Alright, so I pulled up two examples of what I think would be competitive to the item that I'm doing the review on. And basically I figured that out by gauging the capacity, so that you can see 10,000 milliamps per hour, and also the general shape, so something else that's basically a rectangle that can be put in your pocket. Alright, so this particular one, okay, I found both of these, by the way, at Best Buy. Now, I'm not really picking out Best Buy as being the good place to go or a bad place to go. I just picked them because when I feel a lot of people think about needing to buy an electronic gadget, Best Buy is one of the first ones that comes to their mind. So, hence, I went there. Alright, so here we go. This particular one, the first one we're going to look at is Anchor. Am I pronouncing that right? Well, anyway, you see it right there. And this is the PowerCore Metro fabric. Apparently it has fabric on the front here instead of just plastic. If that's important to you, okay, but whatever. More importantly, it has the capacity, same as the one I'm doing a review on. And there you can see it's a charger. Now let's look at the device. You can see that it does have it looks like to be one button. This one seems to be on the front. I also believe there are LEDs in this little kind of button here, so kind of similar. Just that LEDs are on the button as opposed to being on the side, but overall same deal. Then if you look here, we have, as far as ports go, don't be fooled. This is, it only has one output and then one input, or, well, yeah, you see, it's not dual output, that's what I'm getting at. So, alright, now keep in mind, the one I'm doing a review on does have dual output. So, okay, so now let's get to the price, right? There it is, $39.99. And, yeah, so, alright, now keep that in mind. Now let's go to the second one that I compared. Here we go. Okay, so this one here is from this brand here, Mophie. And you can see, again, the capacity is similar, and the shape, this one's really similar looking. Yep, okay. Now, this one here claims to be fast charge. I mean, I don't really know just how fast charge or whatever the rating is, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say it's a little faster charging than the one that I have. That might not be the case, but I'm just giving this the advantage right now for the sake of the comparison. So let's say this one charges a little bit faster. All right. Anyway, and you can see the capacity is the same, and then the shape, pretty much identical. LEDs are on the side. Again, no big difference. Notice that they're also using the 4 LED system of telling how much charge is left. And now if we look at the top of the device, you can see there that this only has one output and one input. So, and again, that's not as good as the one I'm doing the review on. Alright, so now let's go over here and look at the price. $49.99. So now we'll hold up these kind of side by side here. And you see, so for the one that is fabric-y, it's only $40, and the one that supposedly is a little faster charging is $50. So how does that compare to this? Alright, so when it comes to this one, I did have it imported from overseas, and I do happen to have, you know, a connection with this seller, so I got it for a pretty good price. So I personally got this shipped to my door for under $15. Alright? Now, let's say though that, you know, you just went and basically clicked on the first link that you saw for this device. You didn't know, you know, basically just going in cold, so to speak. You could probably get this for $20. So now when you think about it, you have $20 versus $40 or $50. And yeah, this one might have fabric, but is that really a big deal? Not to me. And this one might be a little faster charging, but consider both of those features of these, you're giving up the dual port charging. So if you consider those things to be equal, then you're comparing $20 to $40, which is double the amount, or $50, which is even more than double. Are these worth paying double or more? I'm not so sure. Alright, so would I recommend this item? Based on what I've seen so far, assuming nothing changes, like it doesn't fall apart or stop holding charge, but if it continues going as it is now, this is a definite yes. I mean, it's actually kind of a no-brainer. The price is basically unbeatable, and the performance, which I kind of expected to suffer, it seems to be performing even a little better than they stated. So, I mean, I don't really know what else you could ask for, especially for at the price. And that kind of makes me wonder about these other brands that I showed earlier. Just having a power bank that's 10,000 milliamps per hour isn't going to cut it if you're charging double of what some of these other brands are.